Hi, this is Count Lazuli, and tonight I just came back from watching Venom, a movie that I've been pretty suspicious about, pretty afraid, but nonetheless very anxious for it to be good. Now, this is actually my first ever movie review here on YouTube, and I don't really have any real format. I just kind of have like a little checkpoint cue card type thing right next to me here. Just so I can keep track of the points I want to make. And I kind of want to start off by saying again, I'm a big Venom fan. When I was a little kid, I was the 7 to 8 year old boy running around the house with a Venom action figure, while my brother played the game Ultimate Spider-Man on PlayStation 2, I think it was. So I grew up, loving Venom. Venom pretty much is my favorite Marvel villain as far as, the general Marvel universe goes. So, I think starting off, is it a loyal adaptation? Yes and no. Here's the thing with Venom's character. In the original, the core of Venom is basically this alien parasitic suit or slime monster thing comes down from space. I think the comics call it a Clintar, but humans refer to them as symbiotes. And one attaches to Spider-Man, and he has this big arc where it's slowly corrupting him and twisting him around. But as he's doing that, he's screwing up the life of another guy named Eddie Brock, who learns to hate both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. When Spider-Man finally ditches the symbiote, which now hates him for being rejected, it attaches itself to Eddie Brock. Both Eddie and the symbiote hate Spider-Man and Peter Parker, so they're basically just perfect for each other, and they fuse together and they form Venom. They become Venom. And thus, it's kind of like the anti-Spider-Man in terms of the Spider-Verse. This movie does not follow that. Instead, they actually started with Eddie Brock. They have the symbiote go to Eddie Brock. In fact, I'm just going to make it clear right now, there's no Spider-Man in this movie. Not even a mention of Spider-Man. It's just, the symbiote latches onto Eddie. And instead of Eddie having this, kind of this hate boner towards Spider-Man, it's, the movie is more instead about Eddie trying to work with this parasite that controls his body whenever it wants. Or sometimes. It's confusing. You'd have to see the movie. But Venom himself, I would say, in terms of his personality as well as his design, they got him right there. They really did bring you Venom. Maybe not in the history of his character, but they definitely brought you the feel of Venom. It definitely feels like big teeth and tongue fella has come back. Because I remember back years ago when I saw Spider-Man 3, and that just did not feel like Venom to me. It felt like a scrawny, dark Carnage. And we didn't even get to see much of him anyway. He mostly just had his human face with these weird vampire fangs. It was really disappointing. That was not Venom. That wasn't Venom. Maybe in terms of, he had the story, but it did not feel like Venom. This feels like Venom. Big, brutish, he's got the tongue and all that. He has the jokes, too. He's got that kind of, humorous undertone, I'm gonna bite all your heads off kind of thing. So it definitely feels like Venom in this movie. So, yeah, it's kind of a yay-nay with a loyal adaptation. Performances. So the lead of this movie is, I think it's Tom Hardy, this is his name. And for those of you who don't know who Tom Hardy is, he also played Mad Max in Fury Road, as well as Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. And he's back as Eddie Brock / Venom. When I saw the trailers, he just sounded very weird, and I thought he was going to be my least favorite part of this movie. But honestly, he's pretty charismatic in this. He's got kind of that hot shot, very investigative personality. He's a fun character. He's very likable. So, I didn't expect that. I didn't think I was going to like him. I ended up enjoying him. But yeah, the performances. Everyone really played their parts well, I'd say. Above average. Not really much else I can say there. There was good acting. Maybe there wasn't that much personality for most of the cast, but there was some decent acting. The villain was, kind of... I don't know how to feel about the villain. He kind of just felt like this, I run this company, generic, but at the same time, he did have a bit of this, this interesting passion. He wanted the evolution of humanity or whatever. So, I don't know, pretty forgettable villain, to be honest. The story, it's kind of your run-of-the-mill standard affair, There's really no humongous surprises in this movie. He gets the symbiote. He has to learn to work with it. And, but then, bad dude shows up and he has to stop the bad dude, and it's about it, really. That's kind of your story in a nutshell. Pacing was a little bit weird. Actually, pacing was very weird. It's very choppy at times. It feels like this movie really just, rushed and chopped over a lot. Yeah, very, very strange. You'll have one scene where everything's calm and good, but then after one quick thing happens, all of a sudden there's a huge dramatic change, and it really feels like it's just trying to get the story going. Especially in the beginning, when you're going one quick scene after another, it feels like it's just trying to get to Venom before it really gets a bit more of a proper pace going. But even then, it's pretty weird. The action was probably one of the best parts of this movie, without a doubt. Oh man. Okay, so you have your scenes where the symbiote is kind of shooting out of Eddie Brock, doing all kinds of crazy things. And that, by the way, that's the kind of thing I like with this movie. I think it's really cool how the symbiotes basically just use people as, like, rag dolls. Really just like a meat car for them to drive around in and do their crazy attacks and all that. That's the thing about this movie. They really take advantage of the fact that this is a symbiote. It's an alien slime monster that can do all kinds of crazy things. So, I wouldn't say you see a whole bunch of Venom, but you don't see too little of them either. You see about as much Venom as you'd expect in a hero or a villain or whatever in a movie titled after them, You see as much Venom in this movie as you see Iron Man in the first one of his movie. And again, it really is fun to just see Venom beat the living shit out of people. And you do get that. It's fun, My brother and I, we were in the theater tonight just fanboying over these battles that were going on. I think one of my favorite shots, and this is in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler, but there's a scene where the symbiote kind of reaches off of Eddie, forming a face and talking to him right there. And again, I love that. It really feels like, the symbiote. Like, they're not holding back with what the symbiote can do this time. And again, that's one of the reasons why I did enjoy this movie. Okay, so we've gone through the whether or not it's a loyal adaptation, acting, story, characters. Do we go through characters? Again, there wasn't really much character beyond Eddie and his symbiote. There was the action, pacing. Alright, so what do I think was the worst thing about this movie? I mean, aside from the fact that it really does not have the essence of Venom's history and character in there, in terms of his whole Spider-Man arc, I would say probably the weakest thing about this movie was the bulk of the writing. It was the bulk of the writing. A lot of the dialogue sounds like something you get from a Transformers movie. You know, they really just very much just say things to get the point across. For example, let's think of a random thing. Let's just say one character says to another, I love you so much, and it's like, alright, well, we really didn't get to see much of that, so I don't feel it. It feels very, half-assed and rushed. And, there's just a lot of this, very uninspired, blatant dialogue in this movie. I'm sure there's probably quite a few plot holes in this film. For example, the symbiote's motivation, they really did not try hard with that there. I do not feel it. So yeah, the writing was not that great. In fact, it was pretty bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat. The writing was pretty fucking awful. The best part of this movie, aside from the kick-ass Venom sequences, was the relationship between Eddie Brock and his Venom symbiote. That was the best part of this movie. Because even though I just took a moment to shit on the writing, this was pretty fun. It was really fun to have this deep, dark, and imposing voice kind of just blatantly say something a little funny to Eddie with his booming voice. But the thing is, only Eddie can hear the voice. So he'll be talking to someone, and then the symbiote interrupts, but only Eddie can hear it. So Eddie's getting pissed off at the symbiote, but the people he's talking to have no idea what the fuck's going on. So it's just such a hilarious dynamic, and you get a good amount of it. You get it throughout the whole movie. And that aside from getting the Venom feel, that's what keeps this movie from being downright awful. So, in conclusion, it's a yay or nay with the adaptation. Good acting. Pretty dull story. Only the central characters really work. The action was fun and exciting. Pacing felt pretty rushed and choppy. The worst part was the writing, and the best part was the relationship between Eddie and Venom. In conclusion, I think it was a mediocre movie, but it admittedly had a lot of charm. It's kind of one of those, just campy fun movies. It's a good movie to kind of just watch on a Tuesday night, have a couple laughs, have a couple beers or something, But this is by no means some kind of masterpiece. Far from it. I think it's pretty debatable whether or not you even want to call this a good movie. Mediocre at best. But still fun. I can't say this is a good movie, but I can definitely say it's an enjoyable movie. It's a nice flick. I'd say, grab a couple friends, go and watch Venom. I don't think you'll regret watching it. I really don't. This is Count Lazuli, and I am out.